Have you ever wondered what it's like to work in law enforcement? Here on Behind the Star, we share stories about the Orange County Sheriff's Office, Central Florida's largest law enforcement agency. From forensics to dispatch to the deputies on patrol, we'll talk to the brave men and women who protect our community. This is Behind the Star, the official podcast of the Orange County Sheriff's Office. Welcome to Behind the Star, the official podcast of the Orange County Sheriff's Office. My name is Jon Busdeker, your host here at Behind the Star. And if you missed last episode where we talked about the Behavioral Response Unit, you should go back and check that one out. We had a really good time. It's one of our newest units here at the Orange County Sheriff's Office, and it was the last one we did, so go check that episode out. If you like what you hear on Behind the Star, be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes, on Google Play, wherever you get your favorite podcast. And just leave us a note, leave us a comment, leave us a review. If it's a bad review, don't leave that. If it's a good review, we definitely want those. So anyway, I'm excited about this week because this week, we're talking to somebody who we haven't talked to yet, and it's somebody that I've shot some videos with. I've gone out to their operations out there, and I'm excited to have him. I'm here with Sergeant Michael Rosignol from our Levo section, which is the Law Enforcement Vehicle Operations, and I'm going to have him tell you a little bit more about what that is. Welcome to Behind the Star.
Thank you, John. Good morning.
Good to see you. Like I said, we're on my turf today. I think I told you that I was going to come out to Levo's Operations Center, but you agreed to come down to where I work here at Central Ops, so I appreciate that. You saved me an hour's drive.
Well, I didn't want you going out and taking our pit cars for a ride. I know you eye them every time you come by.
It's very true. So Sergeant, let's just start off. What is Levo? We call it Levo for short. What exactly is Levo?
Well, John, it's the Law Enforcement Vehicle Operations Center, and up at Levo, we're committed to the training of not only our agency members, but our community teams, as well as our civilians, and law enforcement candidates from the academy.
So when you say we're committed to that, what happens out at Levo? What's the point of having Levo?
Well, as you can imagine, there's a lot of liability that comes with driving a vehicle, and we have several different vehicles in the agency, ranging from our regular patrol vehicles on up to our specialty type vehicles. And we have a lot of different techniques that we operate with those vehicles, and that requires some training and some practice that the deputies go through, and some training with that to ensure that we have the absolute best protection for the deputies, not only the deputies, but as well as the community.
Now, I said this at the beginning. You saved me a trip going up there. Levo is kind of out there. When I say they're out there, it's in Orange County, but it's sort of in the northwest west part of Orange County, right?
Yes, you can definitely get lost up there. When you go up to our facility, it might seem like we're sending you out into the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, it's basically almost Lake County.
Yes, it is. It is. And it's a nice, quiet area that we enjoy training in, and get some unusual wildlife from time to time that we like to send pictures of, and that have been posted on the community social media. And we really enjoy being up there because of that, being out there with all the ability for us to conduct the training without interfering with too much of the busyness of life that goes on in the central part of Orange County.
Yeah, it's not like it's a secret. It's just kind of off of 441 Orange Blossom Trail, heading towards Lake County. If you've ever been to Renegers, it's kind of on the way to there. But yeah, you turn off the road, you go down kind of a rural road, and then you end up out at Levo, and it's just a wide open space of blacktop.
Yeah, it's a great facility to train on. We do have two large pads that we utilize, and it's one of the larger vehicle operations training centers in the Central Florida area. We're pretty proud of the area that we have over there. It's a great place to train.
So I'm going to break this down into two sections. So I'm a civilian. I'm not a law enforcement officer. I have a badge, but it doesn't really mean anything. And then we also have another side, which is sworn officers. And so both sworn and civilians sometimes have to go out to Levo to do training, and I'm going to break down each side why they have to go. So let's start with the deputies. What would be a reason, or why do deputies have to come out to Levo to do training?
Well, as you can imagine, the deputies travel millions of miles each year collectively, And with that comes the possibility of risk, and we want to mitigate that risk as much as possible by giving them the best training to prepare them for situations, to put them through exercises that make them understand the vehicle dynamics that comes with that. Obviously, everybody who gets a license at 16 or 18, whenever they decide to get it, learns how to drive. But
barely sometimes. I've seen some Florida drivers. They all didn't take the same class as I did.
Yes, that is true. Having just put two of my kids through some of my own training for them, I'm comfortable with them driving, and I fear for some of the other people out there.
That's how you're supposed to drive. Everybody else is going to get in an accident but you, and then you'll be safe about it. So anyway, deputies go up to Levo to do training.
So we want to mitigate that risk. So they start out with the academy, and for most standards, the academy training is a lot that most agencies in Florida will get. But we're not comfortable with that. As I stated before, our deputies, Orange County is a very large county, and there's a lot of driving that goes on with it. And so we understand that, and we want to extend our training. Typically, a lot of agencies will only have that academy training, and they will go through much of their careers with very little driver training. But we don't believe that that's enough. So we actually will take our drivers as soon as they're hired, and during their early weeks of training, we'll put them through an additional 32 hours of training. And a lot of that training involves higher speed than what they received in the academy, a lot more evasive type maneuvers, a lot more braking, a lot more opportunities for them to understand what that vehicle goes through when it goes through those exercises, so that they understand the vehicle dynamics. They understand what the brakes will do when they have a hard stop. They'll understand what the steering does if they steer too hard the wrong way, or they overcompensate with their steering. So it's important for us to be able to put our deputies through that because they will be driving a lot, and we want to see our deputies drive home safe at the end of the night. So we will continue to offer that kind of training to them. And again, we feel that a lot of the training is going to mitigate those crashes. And so when we see some video come back and there's a deputy that almost got into an accident, and sometimes we've even heard them say, "Thank you, Levo," because something that we might have taught them where they are able to utilize those techniques. So it's a good feeling when we see that, and we know that the training's paying off.
It's an interesting point because I think everybody, they have to be able to drive. You have to have a license to work here at the Orange County Sheriff's Office, especially if you're a deputy. And, we all drive day to day. We know how to stop at red lights and hit the gas and do all that. But you mentioned, braking and turning, and these are the types of things that you don't typically get to do. And so when it does happen, if you've never really trained on it, you might get freaked out, especially if you slam on the brakes and your car starts going one way or the other. If you have some training, you say, "Oh, it's going to swerve this way or that way, and I can correct it." Those are the things that you get to do and you get to practice on the big pad out there.
Yeah, exactly. And because the Orange County Sheriff's Office is constantly looking for those tools to improve the training, we've incorporated some devices that we utilize on the vehicles that enhance the ability for the vehicle to skid. So we're able to incorporate some exercises that the vehicle will get out of control easier, which allows us to train for them to be able to correct that vehicle where they wouldn't have that opportunity just driving a regular car. And included in every couple of years, we change our training up a little bit to see what's going on in the agency to try to match the accidents that are occurring, everything. And this cycle of training, we've actually incorporated some more of that skid type training. So they're getting a lot more than what they would normally. And we're constantly looking for those better ways to go, what is happening out in the road? How can we fix what's happening there? And let's incorporate that for this year's training, this couple years cycle, so that we can make sure that our deputies are safe.
So you mentioned 32 hours of training for, I believe, new deputies when they first start out in the first few weeks that they're here at the agency. Walk me through that. What do I do for 32 hours out at Levo?
Right. So they do start out in the classroom. And the instructors will go over with them some simple ideas of what vehicle dynamics are, and what happens when you do this, and show some videos of the vehicles under stress and things like that. Once we've done that, we go over the car and make sure they understand the basics of it. We don't want to go over anybody's head. We have had situations where some people have come only having a driver's license for 6 months because they come from a state where it has a large city and they never had to drive.
Oh, wow.
And
I never even thought about that.
Yeah, it was kind of a shock to us. So that deputy, a couple deputies we've had do that. They did a really good job of catching back up because they hadn't had those opportunities that some of us had at driving at 16. But so we start basic and we go over the basics of the car and talk about what's in it. And then once we do that, we start out with some real easy exercise to understand the fender judgment of the vehicle, understanding where the four corners of the car are. We discuss a lot about looking where you want to go. Because a lot of people, they'll stare at the object they're trying to avoid. And that has a lot to do with the fender judgment. And so we do some basic exercises that reinforce those ideas. Basic backing exercises, which everybody hates backing exercises. They're very boring, but unfortunately, us, along with most agencies, along with most corporations and entities, backing usually is about 50% of people's problems.
I believe that. No, I've seen people try to parallel park and back their cars up.
Oh, yes. So we spend a lot of time with some backing exercises, and we move up from there. And at the end of that day, we start incorporating a little bit more higher speed exercises that start to really pull on the dynamics concepts that we talked about in the classroom. And so we'll spend 2 or 3 days doing that, ensuring that they're up to speed on that. The third day comes to a conclusion where we put them in a rigorous course where it's got a lot of the smaller exercises built into the course. So they have to really experience those in multiple areas, all in one targeting run. And we expect them to be able to do that in a certain time frame. Adding a couple little extra things, some weather aspects of it. We kind of end up shooting them with some rain and stuff like that.
Yeah, snow though. We don't get snow. We don't have to worry about that.
Haven't figured out how to do that yet. But then at the conclusion of the third day, usually we're pretty much done with most of the driving, and then we go into more of the tactical operations, and they learn some of the tactical things that we use to try to limit pursuits and things of that nature. We go over a lot with stop sticks, which is a tool that we'll use, but with stop sticks, it's a very dangerous concept, so we want to make sure that our deputies understand the dangers that come with that. And we do intersection clearing. And
explain what that is for people that don't know.
So intersection clearing is one of our greatest threats because it's an unknown. It's kind of like when you clear a building and you go around a corner, you don't know what's there. And so you take one of these large, expansive intersections here in Orange County where there could literally be 8 to 9 lanes, and you try to enter into that. And with the classroom, we talk about the exemptions that you're allowed by state law and by our policies, what you can and cannot do. And we teach them about when they're supposed to stop at the intersection, when they're allowed to clear it, and how they should clear it lane by lane, and treating each lane like it's a corner in a building that we haven't crossed yet. And a lot of that is easy to do in a classroom. It's easy to talk about in a classroom. It's easy to go out and perform in a very sterile training occupation or training space. But when you get out there and you've got the adrenaline pumping and people are shouting on the radio, this man's down, or, we need to get to this person, or there's a burglary in progress right now, and there's a child in the back room that's scared. All that really compounds on the deputy, and they're trying to breathe and do the breathing techniques and get through that intersection. So our hope from the training division is that we've practiced it, we've talked about it, so that when that stress does come into play, that they're really trying to focus on clearing that properly.
Because I know intersections can be very dangerous, because if somebody's not paying attention, they're listening to the radio too loud, they don't see the sirens, they don't hear the sirens, and they just go through because there's a green light for them.
Absolutely.
But really, there's a deputy trying to get through, and everybody else is stopped, but maybe one person just doesn't notice.
Absolutely.
But the deputy does have to notice.
Yeah, the deputy ends up having to have their head on a swivel and just trying to do their best to manipulate through that. And we've had situations where deputies have done absolutely everything right. They've traversed across it. and it's that one car that just comes just bearing down, and they end up, getting hit.
Yeah.
And, the deputy does everything that they can.
So I mentioned that there's classes or training for deputies, but there's also training for civilians. I'm a civilian, as I said, and I had to go through the Levo course because I have a vehicle that is from the agency. I have an agency vehicle. Mine doesn't have lights and stickers and all that stuff on it. Mine's just a boring Dodge Caravan. But I had to go out there and do the training as well. Maybe explain first of all, why do I have to take the training? Why do civilians have to do it? And what's maybe the difference between the civilian training and the deputy training?
Well, let me comment on that Dodge Caravan. I think I've gotten that Dodge Caravan up to speed out there.
Oh, yeah. No, it's fast. It's fast. It just looks like I'm taking the kids to soccer practice.
And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, I got to assist John with some filming, and it was pretty exciting to be his wingman for his filming. I think John and I should go into business with that. But it is important for our civilian staff, even though they're not going to be driving Code 3, even though they're not going to be able to utilize the exemptions that law enforcement gets under those, they are still going to be driving an agency vehicle, and it's probably going to have that yellow tag on the back, and people are going to look at that and expect that there's a little bit more that goes with that yellow tag to the more responsibilities. So we want to give our civilians the most training that we can that fits kind of what they're doing, and so that when they get out there, that anything that comes into their way, that they have those same training techniques that allow them to get out of those crashes. Because no matter whether you've got a 6-pointed star or a 5-pointed star, the liability is going to be there with both of us. When the crash occurs and it's a sheriff's office vehicle, at the end of the day, it's the sheriff's office. So we want to give you that same training to make sure that you have the best training available, to ensure that you're able to get out as much as you can possibly get out with the limited training that you've received. I think giving you all that training is beneficial because you're a valuable member of our staff. And when you come out to assist us, or when you go to do your functions, we want to see you when you get there. Yeah. And we want you to see you when you come back. So
it's not just me, obviously. There's forensics that they're not sworn, but they have to drive agency vehicles. There's all kinds of people. So I do want to say, so when I was out there, this was probably a year and a half ago now, part of the training, I had to do the classroom stuff and the backing up stuff. And, that can be challenging. Luckily, I didn't have the van at the time. I had a different car, which was a little easier, I think. But there was also the ones where you get to drive really fast and you have to make split-second decisions. And I'll have you describe this. So I think you know the ones I'm talking about with the red lights and the green lights and the left lane, right lane. Talk about that, because I think that's the thing when people say, oh, I got to train for the car. People would ask me, well, what do you get to do? Do you get to drive really fast? Like, yeah, I had to drive really fast and make split-second decisions. So maybe describe that a little bit. Yeah,
certainly. One of the funniest thing that I do encounter, I've been up at the Levo facility on and off since 2012, so I've seen some evolution of cameras and the ability for us to use different devices and training devices. But one of the funniest things is when we start to ask someone to increase their speed on some of these exercises, and we say, all right, now go to 45. All right, now go to 50. Now go to 55. And we say, go to 55, and their eyes light up as if I'm asking them to jump off a cliff.
Yeah.
And then I look at them and I say, well, are you okay? And, oh, that's really fast. And I say, wait a minute. You took the 429 today.
Probably 75.
How fast were you going?
Yeah.
Well, I know, but this is an exercise. And I'm like, well, calm down. It's really no different. You're using the same reaction time, the same things we've taught you. Just don't think about those things and just do what we're asking you to do. So some of the exercises you're talking about, John, are more higher speed. We do what we call a braking exercise and our evasive exercise. And I'll start with our braking exercise. Our braking exercise comes down, and we'll start the students out from 35 miles an hour, and we'll take them all the way up to 55.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a lot between those two, but it is when you're behind the wheel.
Absolutely, and it really doesn't sound like a lot. However, when you look at the space that we're giving you, it really kind of multiplies the what you have to do to get that car to do what you're doing. And could we take it up to a higher speed? You probably could, but at some point you're reaching the limits of that vehicle's abilities. So we want to train you at what's realistic and what we can. And also we want to be safe out there. So we're not going to take you beyond the vehicle's abilities, because then that doesn't make any sense. But our braking exercise, you come down and you get lined up with the exercise. And at some point, there's a light that displays, and that light's telling you that you can either go left or you can go right, but you're not allowed to go down the middle. And in fact, we've blocked off the middle with cones.
Mm-hmm. And you don't know which way it's going to go.
And you don't know.
Driving.
And you don't know. And believe it or not, some people say that we don't, but we give a 2-second following distance. And people say, no, you didn't give me that. But you truly have 2 seconds to make a decision. Mm-hmm. So we target the lights at 2 seconds. And at those 2 seconds, it'll either tell you left or right. And you have to make that decision to go into that lane. And you incorporate some of the steering, and we talked to you about that incorporates the vehicle dynamics of the shifting of the weight and how much brake you give it, the amount of brake you give it, how you we teach you not to hop off of the brakes and things like that. And steer back into your lane. If we sent you to the left, that indicates you could be going into an oncoming lane. So we want you to go back into your own lane, and you're going to have to steer and brake and make those turns and get back and stopped in a certain amount of time. You got 140 feet to stop after going 55 miles an hour at a split second. And if you go to the right, it's simulating you're going down a breakdown lane, so you're going to have to come to a complete stop. So that's the braking exercise, and we do start you out at a lower speed.
Yeah.
So it's not so traumatic when you get to the high speed.
It's funny because when I told people that I was going out to this and what I was going to do, and then afterwards I explained kind of the whole process of the training, and they were like, oh, was it fun? I'm like, no, it wasn't fun during the actual testing, because, you know, you're kind of, it's nerve-wracking because you're going fast. You got to make these decisions. You know, you have other people watching you. You don't want to go right when you've been told to go left, and then you hit a bunch of cones and you look like the dummy who made the wrong decision. Not that you guys make anybody feel bad, but you know, you want to do good, and you don't want to mess up, and it's all happening so fast around you. So it can be a little nerve-wracking when you're out there.
It can. And that's where we'll try to. Well, I have a great staff up there. Mm-hmm. The individuals that are working for the sheriff's office at the Levo facility are dedicated to ensuring that you all get the best training, and they will joke with you as long as they know that those jokes will bring you some peace and calm to you. They've got a good way of trying to monitor and tap into your calmness and bring that to you. And then, you know, until it's time to be really serious about it, if that's not working, and then obviously we'll transition to that. Mm-hmm. But it's a great staff that I work with up there. And that braking exercise, I know that, and again, with the technology that we have now with video and everything, I've seen these videos and the deputies, someone will pull out in front of them, and it's literally that scenario. Mm-hmm. It's you can go into oncoming traffic, you can't go straight, but the breakdown lane's got a car in it that just pulled out in front of you. And I've seen these deputies conduct this exact scenario in real life and be able to do it without hitting a car. And that's a great feeling for us as a Levo staff. And hopefully the deputies see that. And so for that exercise, it can be really beneficial.
When you say you see this video, it's because our patrol vehicles have drive cam footage in them, right?
Yeah, well, a lot of our vehicles have the ability to capture those moments.
Okay.
Not all of them.
Do you watch it? I mean, do you as a team watch kind of what happened and maybe train off of that?
We do. As a team, we're actually tasked with monitoring them. And so we will review them. We get notified of, you know, potential crashes and things like that. So we'll monitor them and review the video, and we get training points out of them to say, hey, maybe we should, you know, tweak our exercise for this. Did you see that video? Technology is a wonderful thing when you can use it the right way, and we've been able to do that. And we've seen our ability to tweak our training based off of those. And then we have our evasive, which can be really nervous for some people. The braking, you're allowed to stop.
Yes.
So you know you're going to stop at some point. But the evasive, we're asking you to make a lane change, go back into your lane, and never touch the brakes at times.
And that's much different.
That is much different, because that really sees if you're paying attention to some of the vehicle dynamic aspects. And because if you go around that barrier and you've hit the brakes too hard while you're turning, that rear end's gonna cut loose, and you're gonna go into a spin. So we're really trying to prevent that And that's why we do that exercise, is to show you that you don't have to jam on the brakes when that happens, that you have the ability to steer. If there's no reason for you to stop, then steer away from the object. And that happens all the time too. We see the videos with stuff flying out of the back of trucks, large chairs, things of that nature.
Oh yeah, no, I can attest to that. I have a truck and I've had a chair fall out.
Absolutely. I had a corporal assigned to me, and a transmission from a very large truck literally fell out the back and dissipated on the ground in front of her. So she had to evade that, and probably due to her training, she was able to avoid the biggest pieces. So the Evasive is really fun for us to watch. Probably when the students are done with it, they probably feel an adrenaline dump, I'm sure. I liken it to a roller coaster at one of the theme parks. Is you don't really want to do it while you're waiting in line, but once it's done, you're like, that wasn't so bad, let's do that again.
Yeah, well, let's do it again in a year.
In a year, or 4 years, or 2 years.
So Sergeant Rosignol, how did you end up at the Orange County Sheriff's Office?
I originally worked for the University of Central Florida Police Department, and I loved UCF. It's a great organization. I was looking to do a lot more and be a little more, I used to use the phrase worldwide and global, and I saw the Sheriff's Office as that opportunity. I had the opportunity to do a lot of things at UCF. I absolutely appreciate what they gave me. It's just I looked at the Orange County Sheriff's Office as being able to go further with what I wanted to do. I spent my time on the road working in different areas and spent some time in CID, but training was truly one of my passions. I enjoy standing up in front and talking to students. I enjoy watching the light bulb go off. A lot of trainers will understand that comment, as when you have somebody that's just not understanding, and you really have to sometimes think outside the box and go, okay, how can I make this person understand this concept? And then when you do finally make that connection with that student and they figure out what you're trying to teach them and that light bulb just goes off, it's a great feeling, and I love that. I worked my way assisting with the training units, assisting with the field training evaluation program, and eventually had the opportunity to be part of the field training evaluation program. And then I saw an opportunity for the law enforcement vehicle operations, and really enjoyed driving, and had gone to the class and thought that was something that might pique my interest, and it did. And it's actually been one of the things that I've truly enjoyed in my law enforcement career.
So when the deputies come out there with their patrol vehicles, because you train in the one that you drive in, I imagine, right?
Absolutely.
And they're all different though, right? Because we have Ford Explorers, we have old Chevy Impalas.
We do.
And so how do you train with all these different cars, or is the training kind of the same depending on doesn't matter what kind of car you're in?
Well, your basic sedans, your basic SUVs, there's gonna be a lot of the same training that goes with that. When the new students come in, obviously they're not issued cars, and we have a fleet of cars at Levo that we utilize in a mixture of SUV and Impalas. And so the academy students and the new deputies who have not been assigned cars, we will use those vehicles, and they learn the basics. Once that progresses to they get their own cars, usually they don't start getting some of the specialty vehicles until they've been there a couple of years. But we do have the student drivers, the deputies, no matter if they've got 2 years on or 25 years on, we have them come out in the vehicle they're assigned. We want them to experience the exercises in the vehicle that they're driving. And sometimes that's a shock for them. We have always told them that if you get a newly assigned vehicle and you don't understand the dynamics of that vehicle, make an appointment with us, come out, we'll drive the vehicle. We have a lot of people take advantage of that. We've had a lot of people say, I just got an SUV, I don't know anything about it, let me come out. We make time for them, they come out, they do the exercises. Hopefully they feel a little confident when they leave. Some people we've had not do that, and they're surprised when they bring out their vehicle for the first time, and it's a shock to them. But then they learn very quickly, and the exercises train them up on it. But we do have them come out with their own vehicles because we feel it's important for them to do the exercises in the vehicles that they're going to be out in on a daily basis.
Has anybody ever wrecked their vehicle out there?
Well, I don't know what you're talking about, John. We have had some minor collisions.
Okay.
And, we've had a couple people go into our guardrail out there. Nothing serious or significant. A lot of times it'll have to do with a combination of things. It's not just one thing, whether it be weather in association with the way the driver drove. as well as maybe the tires or whatever. So far, knock on wood, I guess, we haven't had an issue where it was just an all-out crash that was just devastating. And we do monitor very closely. As you mentioned, we have a variety of vehicles, vans and larger trucks. When we do these high-speed exercises, we monitor those vehicles from 35 miles an hour. And if we start seeing things in that vehicle, we're just not sure if that vehicle will be able to do the exercises at a higher speed. We just won't take it up there. And it's not that we don't think that our drivers can't do that exercise. It's just there's no need to create a risk in the name of training, if you will.
I mean, I imagine a cargo van handles different than a police SUV or even an Impala. And
Absolutely.
So they're just different vehicles.
Absolutely.
And they shift different when you turn. So
yes, and then when you start adding in some of the accessories that go with the vehicles, that does change the vehicle dynamics. And that goes back to what you were asking about earlier, John, if they use their own vehicles. We can train in an SUV all day long, but then you put a 200-pound box in the back of it. That changes the dynamics of that vehicle. So that's why we do encourage them to come out. And so a lot of times we will monitor those vehicles. And if we see something that doesn't feel comfortable to us, then we'll tell the student, hey, I understand everybody's doing this speed, but we're gonna have you do this speed because it's safer for you right now.
Is there one exercise or one thing that really sort of trips people up the most, or is the most challenging to most people?
Everybody loses their mind when it comes to backing, and we really, at the end of the day, we have a lot of training and retraining with backing, but at the end of the day, most people will get it. It's just for some reason when you put that vehicle in R, they want to do all sorts of weird things. And when I say they, I don't just mean our civilians. I don't mean our sworn. I mean just anybody I've ever trained. We do the teen drivers as well.
Yeah, I want to talk about that.
Yeah, and it seems we joke, and this is one of those inside jokes, is there's got to be some way to remove that R from the column because that seems to be where people get in trouble. So if we could just drive around forward all day, we'll be fine.
Yes.
So and when we have these driving exercises that are reverse, you'll have these requalifications, and we tell the students, okay, we're going to be doing some backing exercise, and you can see they don't want to do it because they hate backing, but it's a problem for everybody, it seems. It's just one of those things.
So you mentioned the teen driving class. Tell me about that.
Teen driving. When Sheriff Mina came into office, he had asked for us to revisit the teen driver. We had looked at it from time to time, and based on manpower and budgetary reasons, it just wasn't a right time. And Sheriff Mina wanted us to look into it. We looked into it, and we were able to see that our ability to do it based on our ability to get adjunct instructors, because we are a small division. We don't have the manpower that a UPD has or anything like that, but we have enough manpower to do what we normally do. But for the teen driver, it was going to demand a little bit more. But over the years, we've developed an instructor corps of adjunct instructors, which just means they're maybe working for UPD, but they come help us when we have a need. Mm-hmm. And we've developed that corps, and it's a little bit larger now, so we have the ability to do that. So we were able to do teen driver, and basically teen driver is a joint effort with the Florida Sheriff's Association, and the curriculum is developed by the Florida Sheriff's Association. And these teens between the ages of 15 and 18 come in, and it gives them the opportunity to talk to them, very similar of what we teach our new deputies with vehicle dynamics. We talk to them about what to do when getting stopped by the law enforcement agencies, how to do certain things, texting and driving, distracted driving, not having too many people in your vehicle because it causes distractions, a lot of the safety things. So we cover all that in the classroom. And then we have the opportunity to take them out and put them in these exercises, and some of them are very similar to what we do or to what the academy goes through. Mm-hmm. And it's exciting to watch them because they have nothing that they bring into this, and when they leave, you see a little bit of joy on their face that, hey, I've accomplished this.
Yeah, and this is open to teens mostly in Orange County, I
Orange
think.
County teens, yeah.
And it's open to, you have to sign up and you have to go to OCSO.com and you can sign up for it. And you do classes periodically throughout the year. I know
Yes.
COVID's probably changed a few things, but we try to do these classes. Is it 1 day or 2 days or?
So it's an 8-hour class.
8 hour, 1 day.
Yep, it's a 1-day class, and we try to offer it. Well, last year was the first time, and we started out really well. Our first class was in March of last year, and we were so excited about it, and it went off so well. And the Florida Sheriff's Office Association did an excellent job of helping us out. And we were so excited about it. The instructors had a great time. And it was literally that class when we started getting the emails about, hey, COVID is a real thing, and this is going to affect us as an agency. And that shut us down after that first teen driver. But we didn't let the wheels fall off of it when we started managing COVID. And my staff did an excellent job with COVID. We still trained during COVID. We had a lot of safety guidelines that we had to follow, a lot of disinfecting, a lot of masking, a lot of precautions that we took. And my staff did an excellent job, as well as the students coming in. And but when we started figuring out how to handle some of the COVID-related things, we were able to ramp back up. And so we have ramped back up under COVID conditions. We've limited some of the things that we do, some of the classroom things. We've expanded the classroom a little bit. We've had to minimize some of the restricted drivers because that requires more manpower, and we've had to restrict some of the parents coming in because we have a small building. It's not like our operations center where there's a lot of places where you can put people. But we've managed to do that, and it's back into operation. And we've had a couple classes since then that have gone over really well. It just picked right back up, and our adjunct instructors came back out and assisted us and did an excellent job. And based on the reviews that we've gotten from the students that have gone and the parents, we feel like it's still a powerful program that FSA in conjunction with us put on. And so I feel like we're going to continue to do that, and we're going to try to do about 7 or 8 of them this year.
Good. So I got to ask you about the pit maneuver.
Oh, my.
I'm asking you because last year I went out there and I watched how you train on the pit maneuver. Explain what that is, what it stands for, if you can remember, and how do you train on the pit maneuver? Because that's the thing you see in movies where they do action stunts and things like that. So I want you to talk about it.
Right, that's the super secret things, right? So the pit is the pursuit intervention technique, and basically it's a system of maneuvers to stop a pursuit. And the only reason why we would do it is to stop a pursuit. Anytime that we can keep a pursuit from continuing, every moment that we can keep it from continuing, that's an opportunity for us to protect our deputies, to protect the public, and to even protect the suspect. And so we do train on it, and it's a technique that we utilize during a pursuit situation.
And there's only certain reasons why you can pursue as well.
Right. Yeah, there's only a handful of reasons why we would pursue.
And they're dangerous reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing with the pit is you have to be trained for that specific technique.
Yeah, not every deputy can do it.
Not every deputy is eligible to do it because of the training. And some agencies will train their entire department. We would love to do that. We just have so many deputies. We have so many things going on. It would take an entire division besides us to continue to do that type of training. And plus with the amount of deputies we have, it becomes manpower intensive and vehicle intensive. Because understand, we're actually physically making contact with other vehicles.
Yeah. Maybe just in detail, explain exactly what's going on when somebody does a pit maneuver.
So there has to be the prime opportunity for that to happen. And I won't go into the details of what that prime opportunity is. But when that prime opportunity occurs, the deputy would, parallel and come up with the vehicle and pace the vehicle and physically make contact with the vehicle. And the whole idea is to push that vehicle offline to cause that vehicle to make a spin, if you will. And under most circumstances, we can reasonably predict how many times that vehicle is going to spin based on the speed, based on the trajectory and everything. And the idea is for it to spin to where we then have an opportunity to get that vehicle stopped. And again, if we're able to do that, that's the key. And we won't use it if there's going to be a danger to the public. If it looks like it's going to cause more danger to the deputy, those kind of things, they're just not going to do it.
But the training is, I mean, you train out there. One person's in a vehicle that's sort of getting away, and then the deputy's behind them, and they tap them, and
absolutely,
you got to train all that. And it's pretty crazy to sit in either car, because sometimes you get to be in the one fleeing and the one pursuing. Yes, and
it takes a toll on our instructors, because if you're the deputy that's in the car that's being struck constantly, not only are you occasionally getting struck a little too hard, because remember, the deputies are learning this technique. They haven't refined it yet, so sometimes they'll come in and they'll make a little too hard a contact.
Yeah, and they don't use their own car for this.
No, these are specially designed vehicles that can take the time after time after time. But unfortunately, because of that, it's not as soft as a hit as a soft touch would be. And so if you're the deputy, if you're the instructor that is in that car getting spun out, you're taking the hit, you're getting spun out, and then you're having to get that vehicle sometimes under control to keep it safe.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times I don't have an issue. I love roller coasters. I'll go on a roller coaster all day long. And it really feels like you're in a roller coaster a lot of times, because you're getting whipped around and just slung around, and the seatbelt's getting tied up on you. So a lot of times I'll volunteer to do that, to give the others who don't have that kind of ability.
Yeah.
Because after getting slung around 3 or 4 times, you really start.
Yeah, you get seasick, basically.
Well, you can get seasick. You can start getting a headache. And as I get older, I'm noticing it's becoming harder to be that vehicle every single time. So I've started to have to, hey, somebody else do this for a while. It is fun. I'm not going to lie to you. It's I often joke, some people pay a lot of money to go to theme parks. Sometimes I come to work, and some people don't remember this phrase, but I get the e-ticket ride. And, I won't go into who had that ticket, but, it's fun. I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes that training is fun for me to train the other deputies to do that. And, a lot of people don't get to go to work and have that kind of fun, and I do.
That's great. That is fantastic.
Yeah.
So Sergeant Rosignol, thank you so much for joining me here on Behind the Star. I'm sure I'll see you at some time. I got to come out to Levo at some point probably, and so maybe I'll get to ride with you again in the pit car.
Absolutely. We'll get in the skid car, get in the pit car. We'll take you on a spin.
All right. Well, thanks again. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe to Behind the Star. You can find us wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Also, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Until next time, I'm Jon Busdeker, and this is Behind the Star.